Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm Sherry Duckworth, and joining me today is Mr. Sterling Burnett, PhD, Senior Fellow at the National Center for Policy Analysis. Thank you for coming back and talking with us today.
It's good to be on again.
We always have a lot of questions for you concerning the economy, energy, which is your specialty, and you always educate us and give us great information, and we appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
We do have, a lot of questions right now about the economy. People are wondering, how we're going to fare in the next few years,
Right.
and what's going to be done, what policies are in place to help us out, to keep us doing well. What are some of the more critical policies that you foresee us looking at in the future?
Well, the economy faces a number of challenges, and I think none of them is more critical and would be more beneficial if we could get it right to really starting some strong economic growth, is energy policy. There's no one out there in your audience that doesn't experience the high prices that we're facing right now at the pump, right? We all know what we're paying now and what we used to pay, and no one's happy about it. At the same time, we're heading into the winter season. Here in Texas, the electric bills are not so bad, but let's say you're in Minnesota, and that's not true. That's when they are paying their high bills, and everyone thinks about energy, electricity, transportation, but the truth is, energy, particularly fossil fuels, natural gas, and petroleum, they are more than just things that move your car, heat your home, cook your food. Natural gas is a feedstock for so many things. Your fertilizers to grow your food. It's not just to transport your food, it's to grow your food. Your pesticides that you use both around your home and on the farms. Petroleum is plastics, and everyone's got Tupperware or whatever in their homes. So if we don't get our energy policy right, we affect every other industry we work in.
So some of these issues obviously are things that we need in our lives. We need those plastics and we need those fossil fuels. And for the economy and the health, obviously, as well of, all of us, it's important to make sure that those are regulated, everything's done properly and well balanced. So what advice do you give folks when it comes to researching, the best way, the best route to take when it comes to voicing their opinions? That is it going to make a difference or not in the economy if they give their opinion, or what should they say to their local leaders?
Sure. Well, first off, in my opinion, anytime you have regulations put forward, you should ask yourself a few questions, and then you should raise those questions with your leaders. What is the regulation intended to do? What benefit is it supposed to provide? If it's a health benefit, I'd look around for the evidence, and evidence isn't hard to find, pro or con, that these regulations are actually likely to produce a health benefit, or that the threat that the regulations are meant to solve is actually due to the factors the regulation's aimed at. Secondly, you always have to ask, okay, we know what the supposed benefit will be. What is the estimated cost going to be? Because every regulation comes both with benefits and costs. And you have to look at who's benefiting sometimes with regulations. Well, you also have to look at who's going to be hurt by the regulations. In my estimation, the vast majority of regulations cost more than the harms they're supposed to prevent. And it's in part because they're tailored badly.
So doing that research and finding out for yourself, what the regulations are going to cost,
Yeah.
who's going to be affected, and then coming up with your own opinion, will help you to be able to determine how to then approach the leadership.
Sure. I know everyone's got a job. Everyone is busy. Everyone's got busy lives. They don't have time to do all the research.
Right.
Look at institutions that you trust, but there's no substitute for becoming informed. as opposed to just following what someone else tells you.
Absolutely. Now, because the economy has been facing challenges, let's to put it nicely, jobs obviously have been a big issue. And of course, if the economy is being challenged at the time, then jobs are going to be a challenge as well.
Sure.
And you mentioned that energy, obviously, and fossil fuels are an issue.
Sure.
So people are looking into more green alternatives and green jobs, which more jobs means, it's better for the economy. What is your outlook on green jobs for the future?
Well, it depends on, first off, it's not clear what everyone's talking about when they say green jobs. When they want to inflate green job numbers, they say, oh, we've got hundreds of thousands of green jobs that have been brought online, and it turns out, well, they're talking about your waste disposal, your trash collectors, and your recycling centers that existed before. It's like, let's just throw everything into, if you're doing a new highway and it's reducing traffic congestion, well, suddenly that's a green job. The truth is, most true green jobs, that's jobs, say, doing renewable energy, jobs that didn't exist before they started promoting these things. So, for instance, your wind turbines, your solar power, your other variety of green energy jobs, your energy efficiency programs. It turns out research shows in Europe, where they've been doing this a lot longer than us, and here, though, they cost more jobs than they create. So it is true that you can create jobs if you subsidize something. You can always, the more money you throw at it, the more jobs you'll create in that field. The question is not, will it create jobs? The question is, will it be a net job creator? Because, as I said, everything has benefits and costs. So it turns out that in Europe, for instance, what they found pretty widespread is that only 1 in 10 of the green jobs created is permanent. For every green job created, and this holds true largely here, 2.5 jobs are lost in other industries, including other energy-related industries. Jobs are lost because your green energies are more expensive. When you raise energy prices to all the other companies that have to pay those light bills and the air conditioning, they got to cut back somewhere. And quite often where they cut back is employment. They just don't hire that new person, or they let go the lowest paid, employee. So green jobs, I think, are not the way we should go. I think we should be focused on jobs per se, and it turns out one of the best job creators in this country over the past few years, when other industries are going down, when everything's going down, the fossil fuel industry has been going up. And that's despite policies that discourage fossil fuel production. We're producing more oil now than we've done in a decade or more. We are lessened our dependence on foreign energy. Our natural gas production is grown tremendously, and that's reflected in your electricity prices. They're less high now than they were 5 years ago.
Now, obviously, it's great to hear, jobs going up. There's going to be those who say, well, they wish it wasn't, in that particular industry, but at the same time, it's a good thing to not be dependent for our oil. But at the same time, people are also concerned about their health.
Sure.
And concerned about the effects on the environment, and then the cost of, cleaning up after anything that might cause them any harm. Can you explain to us some of the concerns that people have concerning the drilling and, of course, fracking,
Sure.
which is new to the area?
In North Texas, we've had a fracking boom. Natural gas production is way up, and oil is back up in this state, largely due to fracking. Now, the truth is fracking is not a new technology. We've been doing fracking for 60 years now. But we have come up with new technologies that allow it to become much more effective, including horizontal drilling and some other methodologies. And so we've had a natural gas boom. Some people fear that the production of this natural gas and oil is coming at a high cost. One of the fears is it's polluting groundwater. There is little to no evidence that fracking itself is causing any groundwater pollution, in part because it's so far from the water table. And in fracking, they're generally going a mile to a mile and a half below the surface to crack rock, to let the gas seep out. Your water tables are generally around 500 feet. So there's several miles and multiple layers of rock, sand, and other things to keep the gas from migrating to your water table. They also are lined with steel casings and then cement on top of that. Now, there have been some instances where bad actors have been sloppy with their cement casing, and some leaks have occurred. More importantly, there have been some instances where people haven't treated the wastewater well. And so that has become an issue. But if they're doing up to industry standard, there's no problems at all, air or water pollution. It's funny, a movie earlier this year came out called Gasland, and they really hyped the scare of natural gas in your water. And they went to a place in Pennsylvania, and they showed this guy lighting his water coming out of his tap on fire. And it's like, that's a pretty, if a picture tells 1,000 words, that really takes your breath away. The problem is, what the director failed to mention, is that the guy and the people who had lived there before him, multiple generations, had been able to light their water on fire because their well was dug associated with methane gas that already seeped naturally into his well water. Basically, they're looking for a payday. If I can blame it on fracking, which came 50 years after the problem, really, we noticed it, then I can get my payoff.
So in the DFW area specifically, has this new way of getting gas, has this really been an improvement in our economy, or would you say it's been more of a strain?
Certainly hasn't been a strain for our economy. There's a reason why Texas has been one of the leaders in the nation in lower unemployment than the average, higher migration to the state, job growth in the state. The reason is largely due to natural gas and oil production associated with fracking. We've added tens of thousands of jobs just in the North Texas region, much less where some of my relatives are landmen down in South Texas doing drilling.
Well, it's good to hear that there are more jobs and it's helping the economy. Of course, there's a lot of concerns, and people obviously can have a lot of those questions answered. And is there a particular website that people could go to if they have more questions about this particular issue? Well,
I personally think a good place to start is the National Center for Policy Analysis' own website, www.ncpa.org. Featured prominently on the top page is the environment. You can click on that and you can go find out what needs to be found out about oil and gas. But from there, you can also jump off and go to other sites. You can go to, the government's own sites. A lot of government studies out there to, say fracking's safe. API, a lot of places to go. But first, I'd start with us, ncpa.org.
Yes.
Or go to our blog.
It's a good place to start. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us again, Mr. Burnett. And you really help us to understand the huge partnership, I guess, with the environment, with energy, and how all of that affects our economy and our jobs. So we really appreciate you coming in and talking with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching Joy in Our Town.